Welcome to Whistler Village Beer Festival. Woo!
Welcome to Go. We're coming to you this week from one of the best events here in Whistler, the 3rd annual Whistler Village Beer Festival. Tons of hype going on, and the two organizers sitting next to me are with Whistler Gibbons, who have made this event possible. Liam, let's start with you. You were kind of the guy that initially got this started, as I said, 3 years ago. What was the thinking behind this event?
I've been with the company for several years, up for a challenge, big beer guy, and one of our company's values is trying to align people's passions with opportunity, and this worked out really well. I got to start a beer festival, and it's went from there, and it's in its 3rd year now. It's got bigger every year.
And why do you think that was the perfect time to start the festival 3 years ago? How did that coincide with this beer culture we're also seeing?
The real big boom, I mean, stuff started in the mid-90s, late 80s up here, but the big boom happened around 2-3 years ago. That's when we started hitting like a dozen plus breweries popping up every single year, and seeing all the craft brewery reps come up to Whistler trying to get their products in here every single day, and then everything other on tap was just the regular stuff you find in the old bar, and it just perfect timing. Yeah. It just seemed, and then now every bar in town's carrying craft, and it's great.
Who does love craft beer, right?
Yeah.
It's a win-win. Andy, you're also the right-wing woman also. Tell us, so it's about so much more than just beer tasting. It's 5 days. Give us a rundown of this year's festival.
Well, yeah, overall, I mean, of course it's about craft beer, but at Gibbons we just love to bring people together to celebrate. So we have really kind of focused on all the other elements that we could bring under the festival banner. So we have seminars, so you have things like Hops 101, we even had Cider 101 this year. We've also have great barbecue events. We had a kickoff barbecue event at the Whistler Brewing. We had some beautiful dinner and foodie events at the Westin Resort and Spa. It's just been incredible this year. Liam's done a fantastic job of really thinking about how he can kind of push the festival to the limits and add little events here and there. And the community's really got behind us. We've had the Dublin Gate doing the Deschutes Brewery dinner. We've had quizzes at the Longhorn. We've had cask nights at the Fire Rock. It's just been an incredible kind of 5 days of beer-filled fun.
We had Bannock and beer as well this year. We had the opportunity of working with the Squamish Stillwater Cultural Centre as well, with some First Nations food and music and crafting and local beer here from Whistler, and that was a really cool event as well on Thursday.
And there's now 4,000 people that do take part. Proceeds from this go towards, I know, some social services here in town.
Yes, the Whistler Community Service Society. We've been with them this is our 3rd year now, and tens of thousands in donations at this point. Hopefully match that and bump it up again this year. And as Dee said, community celebration. What a great way to do it.
All right, well, hope you guys have time to have beer afterwards.
That's always the plan. Just get the job done first and make sure everyone else who came here to try it gets it first, and pretty sure there'll be a few drops left over for me.
All right, cool. Thanks for joining me, guys.
No problem.
All right, well, of course, what goes better with beer than a nice, juicy burger? And if you're looking for local BC cuisine, look no further than Mile 1 Eating House.
While this side of fresh chorizo sausage is enough to water most people's taste buds, for Chef Randy Jones, it's how it made it to the chopping board that excites him the most.
I call it the story behind the product. I think every single ingredient that we purchase has a story behind it.
Motivated to tell those stories, a former Fairmont hotel chef and his wife Cindy opened up Mile 1 Eating House, one of the city's first regionally sourced restaurants here in Pemberton in 2010, with a large portion of their ingredients coming from family-run BC farms and fisheries.
It just makes sense because of where we live here. I grew up in BC as well, and we've always had fresh food available to us, and it just came so naturally.
Along with Pemberton's signature potatoes, the restaurant also uses Pemberton Meadows beef, North Vancouver sausages, seasonal veggies, and Vancouver Island and Okanagan cheese in their dishes. For Randy, knowing the faces and stories behind each of his restaurant's products, including its over 35 BC craft beers and wine on tap, is not only a proud feat, but one more and more customers are expecting.
Today's foodies want to know more about the product. People want to know where their food comes from. They want to know those pieces that just you don't get when you walk down the aisle of a grocery store. The most common questions that we get nowadays are about meats. So they've heard about the Pemberton Meadows natural beef. They want to know where they can get it themselves. We have an awesome selection of different sausages.
To answer and cater to those questions, the restaurant has also opened up a foodie retail shop and bakery, otherwise known as the Market at Mile 1, next to the restaurant this past spring, where customers can buy that very beef, along with daily fresh baked buns, natural juice, salt, and even soap from various BC producers.
One of the products we have and that we're really proud of is our local tuna product. It's an ocean-wise, it's a sustainable product. Again, it's local off of our coast. The fishermen's on Vancouver Island. It's just a relationship that we've developed that we're really proud of.
With the company now employing over 20 staff members, the hope is to offer cooking classes teaching others how to bring these very ingredients to their own table in the near future. However, for now, this foodie chef remains passionate about serving up and sharing BC's vast food selection with others, bringing a whole new meaning to comfort food at the same time.
It's super cool how successful it's been. It just feels like the right thing to do. And I'll be, perfectly honest, we can't do everything local all of the time. There's seasonality issues, there's price point issues, but where we can and where it makes sense, we love to have that additional piece. I think it just provides an extra level of almost entertainment within the business to know those layers of story.
Some cool trivia. Mile 1 Eating House was actually featured on You Gotta Eat Here last summer. So if you want to view that video and also their tasty menu, visit the link on the bottom of your screen. Well, lots of tasting going on here. I'm visiting with Brett Mills, who's with 4 Winds out of Delta. Nice to see the Lower Mainland represented here.
Happy to be here in Whistler.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us, Brett, about the different selections you're serving up here.
Yeah, today we're pouring our pale ale. It's a classic American pale ale. La Maison, which is a Belgian-style grisette. And then the third one we're pouring is Apparition, which is a West Coast white ale, similar to a wheaty IPA.
So Belgian-style grisette, I have no idea what that is. For our regular viewers at home, explain that to us. I've heard Belgian a lot throughout this festival.
Yeah, it's a light, I would also consider it a table beer, so it's about 4% and has some fruity esters in it, and grisette is known as like a lighter after beer kind of drink, probably about 70 years ago in Belgium, and now it's kind of making a resurgence in BC brewing, which is really cool.
So what should I expect when I drink this? Kind of play it out for us.
So this has a little bit of like tropical aromas on the nose from esters produced by the yeast. Flavor is also on that same point, but a little bit spicy, also coming from the yeast. We use a bit of spelt and rye in here too, so that adds a little more complexity. Quite refreshing, decently carbonated, so yeah, it's quite an easy drinking beer. So.
A little spicy, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that is nice. It hits your tongue right away versus other ones I've seen like 5 seconds or so. Yeah, that's awesome. So like we said, there's tons of people here today. Obviously, craft beer has grown so much the last 3 years. How competitive, though, is it getting?
It's competitive, but there's becoming more and more shelf space for all of us and draft lines for all of us. So as more brewers join the scene, more bars, more liquor stores are bringing in more craft beer. So we'll see a point, I guess, in the few years when that's saturated. We'll see what happens then. But right now, it's kind of great for everyone.
Yeah, it's a cool bunch. Like I said, you could see everyone talking, all the different booths. You're actually swapping ideas, right? It's not like you just want to keep your recipes to yourself.
It's very communal for sure. Like a lot of the people here that are serving beer are friends of mine. So it's a fun event for us. And it's just good to see everyone.
It brings people together. All right, thank you so much, Brett. All right, well, so to our next story here. You likely wouldn't do this subject while drinking beer, but there's one man in Squamish who's so passionate about math, he's even written a book.
Whether it's tackling a Rubik's Cube or Pascal's Triangle, for mathematician Richard Hashino, solving a problem requires 2 things.
One is imagination, and the other is daring. Imagination that I do not need to force myself to think of the same tried and true methods that I've been doing this whole time. Is there a way that I can break these preconceived boundaries of how this problem has been solved before, as well as the daring to actually go ahead and implement that?
It's this unconventional mind and method of problem solving that has taken Richard around the world. While he was always good with numbers, it was thanks to a grade 7 math teacher teaching the then Toronto student to look behind the numbers that helped spawn his mathematics career.
Showed for me how this subject was more than memorizing rules and equations and formulas, but a subject at its core was about patterns and problem solving.
From that day forward, the math whiz spent day and night solving any problem he could get his hands on. Along with eventually competing as well, winning a personal silver medal at the International Math Olympiad in India in 1996, the university grad spent 5 years working as the only Canadian mathematician for the Canadian Border Services Agency, along with being hired to design a touring schedule for the Japanese Professional Baseball League using mathematical methods similar to this one.
I had noticed that the Professional Baseball League in my hometown had an incredibly inefficient schedule where they were traveling across this tiny island country, but in probably the worst possible way to play all of its games. What I'm doing is to find the number of routes that go from here to here. I'm breaking it into a bunch of smaller problems of figuring out how many routes are there from here to here that go through this line. Add them together, and once I do that, it comes out to be exactly what I'm looking for.
For Richard, being able to make large-scale changes to how global companies and services run has now inspired him to teach the next generation of the excitement and opportunities of the mathematical world.
What we have to do is multiply two different events that neither of us win in round one, multiplied by the probability of you winning in round two.
The outgoing academic, spending the last 2 years teaching hands-on mathematics courses here at Squamish's Quest University, as well as self-publishing his first book, The Math Olympian, earlier this year, chronicling a young girl's own journey to compete at the International Math Olympiads.
I've always wanted a career with the hope of making an impact in the lives of young people, with the hope that they'll learn to see this subject the way I do. Instead of adding everything column-wise, let's look at everything row-wise. What I see from these students is this rage to master, this hunger for not wanting to stop at understanding an answer, but understanding the reason for which something is true.
Is that right?
That's absolutely right. And when I see them take these ideas and go beyond what I'm able to teach to solve problems on the issues that they care about, for a teacher, it's the most satisfying feeling.
We're really fortunate to have them. Our goal at Quest in the math that we teach is really to have students be in the center of the problem-solving process rather than memorizing facts and repeating information, and Richard is just excellent for helping facilitate that kind of opportunity and experience for students.
With Richard teaching a different class each month, with more and more students, especially women, now pursuing a career in the industry, having his marker keep up with his brain remains his biggest challenge. And while some may tire of a lifetime staring at X's and question marks, for this mathematician, there's nothing more beautiful.
What's so exciting for me as a mathematician solving real-life problems is the ability to make connections between something messy, something complex, something difficult, into something that, if I just draw the right picture, into something that's incredibly easy, simple, and beautiful. It's quite exciting.
Coming up,
When you're serving someone a deep cut beer and if they're having a good time and they're enjoying that moment, that's what it's all about.
from apartment brewing to a full-fledged operation, we find out the story behind Deep Cove brewers and distillers.
Welcome back from the break. We're here on Go celebrating the third annual Whistler Village Beer Festival. Over 4,000 people are taking part in this 5-day event, including the man next to me who's feeling good already, Vince Shuley. Vince, you're one of many party goers coming here, but everyone's got a story what made them have an interest in craft beer to start. What's your story? What kind of pulled you in?
I guess it was mostly curiosity. I'm from Australia, and when I came to BC about 10 years ago, I'd go in the liquor store and, you'd walk past the big boxes of red beer and big boxes of blue beer, and you go to the back of the liquor store, and there'd been some more interesting labels from some smaller breweries. And I guess I just tried it a few times, and I had friends who tried it, and then later on I had friends who were home brewing who were really getting into it, and once those discussions started, it all kind of went from there.
What kind of preconceived notions did you have of craft beer going into it that you were maybe surprised about when you first had your first taste of craft beer?
I didn't have so many preconceived notions as I really just tried tasting it, and it tasted good. So, after that, I just kind of expanded to, I guess, more experimental beers, and, other darker, more flavorful beers, and I liked everything that I had, that I tried. So yeah, just kind of kept going.
Now you're always walking around with a little mug.
Now I am, yes, especially at this festival.
All right, so obviously, taste is a big thing, like you said, but there's so much more to the industry than just to taste a beer. What do you really love about it?
There is a huge sense of community within the craft beer industry amongst the brewers and amongst the consumers, and an event like this here at Whistler gets everyone a chance to interact and talk about beer, try new beers, and basically just have a great time drinking beer in the mountains. You really can't go wrong with this one here in Whistler.
Meet some cute girls here too.
Absolutely.
And just a last question, would you say, how big have you seen the craft beer scene get here in Whistler? You're a writer for the newspaper. You write about beer sometimes. How do you think it's improved?
I think this festival has definitely been a big catalyst to the growth of craft beer in Whistler. I think that more of the venues have kind of stepped up. The Whistler Brewing Company here has been very strong in recent years. The brew house owned by Mark James Group and High Mountain Brewing have done an amazing job of bringing craft beer to the community. And I think it's just it's catching on more and more here every year. You can see, we've got locals and visitors here alike drinking beer in the mountains and just expanding the palate. So I think the craft beer movement in Whistler is as strong as anywhere in BC.
Only getting bigger for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Vince. All right, well, throwing to our next story of the day here on Go. Along with participants, it's of course the brewers that make this a successful event it is today. And let's meet one of them right now.
Welcome to Deep Co Brewers.
Shay Desjardins loves talking beer.
The Sunkist Tea Saison, it's one of our summer seasonal, extremely light, session style. Everyone loves beer. The industry that we're in is super fun. Everyone from the different breweries that are around are all working together to better this craft revolution that's happening. Would you like me to pour you a beer there? Pour you one of those?
Like most craft breweries, Deep Co brewers and distillers start out as a grassroots operation. We're talking really grassroots.
I built and designed a small pilot system that we brewed small batches of beer right on our apartment balcony, and our neighbors definitely thought we were doing some pretty illicit things.
Strange, but it got the job done. Within a year, the mechanical engineer and his team had almost perfected their brews and were ready to enter the craft beer market, opening up the North Vancouver Brewery and Tasting Room in 2013.
People come in, they see this big equipment, they see the stuff behind it. There's a rawness that isn't, part of, I would say, the general public's everyday life.
CO2 setup?
CO2 is good.
Today, its team of now 15 members, including brewer James, produce and ship an array of pale ales, IPAs, seasonal selections, and more to thirsty drinkers along the Sea to Sky corridor, with BC's craft beer scene seeing a huge boom in the last 3 to 4 years.
BC in particular has, gone from 10% market share of craft beer to 20% market share in less than 5 years. A bit of a younger demographic. They're looking for more. They're looking for advanced flavors. This is our Starstruck Rye IPA. This is kind of the big boy of the bunch. 7% alcohol. We're using hops that are coming in from Australia, Galaxy hop.
Along with rye IPAs and steep tea seasonals, the team also collaborated with Whistler Brewing Co. to offer an extra special Belgian-style pale ale at this year's Whistler Village Beer Festival.
Basically, it has a lot of pineapple, passion fruit, and kind of wine flavors to it. So it's quite fruity, really, really nice on the nose, and it has that Belgian body to it as well. So it's great for this fall weather.
Okay, let's give it a try here.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Cute little mug. Well, that is nice. Nice and light.
Totally.
Yeah, just hoppy enough, for sure.
With over 80 microbreweries now in BC, for Shay, already winning half a dozen beer awards in a short span of 2.5 years has to feel good.
Just great. Awards are great, and they, recognition is always nice.
But ask this beer lover the best part of bringing green to glass, and like most brewers here, the answer is simple.
When you're serving someone a Deep Co beer and I'm watching people drink it, and if they're having a good time and they're enjoying that moment, that's what it's all about. And the fact that we can be a part of that is huge.
This is an amazing drink. I'm here with Graham, one of the head brewers with Parallel 49. And Graham, you're telling me this grapefruit ale won at the U.S. Open Beer Competition, you were saying 5 months ago.
Yeah.
People may not realize there's so many beer competitions, local, national. Tell us about that experience.
We have like local kind of competitions in BC, there's Canada-wide, and then we recently won first place in fruit beer with this for the U.S. Open.
My goodness. So what is the process in that? You just submit the beer to be tested? You go there?
You usually send them a couple bottles, and it's kind of like a dog show. We have all these different varieties, and everyone tastes it, and then they kind of, what's the best in each category? And then they go to a kind of a big round of all the best to find out the overall best beer.
My goodness. And is it hard though for these competitions to really know how you're going to place? They say sometimes with other, like say art and stuff, it depends on the judges, but do you kind of have a feel for what the big ticket item is that year?
No, it really kind of depends, but I'm a beer judge as well, so I've done these competitions, right? And usually there's a pretty good consensus. Usually there's beers that always kind of do well, and but it really is kind of random sometimes.
Yeah, depends kind of thing. And how does that change a company like yourselves? You've been here going for 3 years, you said, but winning awards, you've won about 20 or so, which is amazing. But how does that change your operations?
It's great. Like if you win a really big award with the beer, everyone starts hearing about it, and then demand for that beer spikes, and all of a sudden you got to brew way more of that to keep up with demand. And if you win something like the U.S. Open one we won, it really gets the name of the brewery out there.
Right.
So for the North American wide, everyone's going, who's this Parallel 49 brewery out of Vancouver? Vancouver makes good beer? Oh, okay, I should try it out.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining me, Graham.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's go to our last word of the day here on Go. We're heading all the way up to Birken, which is just north of Pemberton, where one creative couple is still going strong 35 years later.
Growing up in New Westminster and the Persian Gulf, Judy and Hugh Boris may have lived worlds apart, but there was one thing that connected them.
The church I used to go to when I was a little girl had 8 stained glass windows down each side of the church. And that's probably what I was doing when I was there, staring at the stained glass windows.
Throughout Europe, my family traveled, and every time you went to a new town, you had to go and see the church and look at all the windows. The colors, the texture, the way the light reflects through the glass. It's just amazing.
After meeting Judy in the 1970s, the two free spirits set off to travel across Canada.
We built a house on the back of a truck, and I built the frame, she put the windows in it.
With Judy having taken numerous glassworking classes, she began to teach her future husband the craft, with the hobby soon turning into a roadside business.
We were making little sun catchers in campsites that we went to. People would see us doing the work, and we'd strike up conversations, and they would purchase some of our pieces, and that would keep us going.
However, like most couples, the time came to find a permanent home. Seeking a quiet refuge, the two moved and soon opened up Our Glassworks along this rural road in Birken, just north of Pemberton in 1980. They were married the same year. Well, fast forward 35 years and the tight-knit duo is still at it, making and shipping everything from sun catchers, window displays, lamps, bowls, earrings, and more, with Hugh becoming even more involved after retiring as a school principal 6 years ago.
We do commission work, so either we'll go and install or we will ship. I've had a couple pieces go to Cincinnati and Houston this year, and back east in Canada, some over to Europe. It starts with a drawing. I draw to scale, whatever the project is.
Hugh then carefully cutting out, laying, and then tracing each of the numbered pieces on the glass imported from the States and Europe.
Learning how to cut the glass, that was difficult at first. It's something you grow up being scared of breaking glass, but once you know what the sound's about and how to cut it, there's no more fear factor.
What I'm doing here is soldering the pieces together.
Along with using traditional lead cane and copper foil methods, Judy also fuses and then heats up layers of glass in her kiln to create her signature bowls.
It's very time consuming. Each piece has to be cut and ground and foiled and soldered and patinaed and polished. I mean, it's a labor of love, really. You're working, sometimes hours and hours on it, but I'm totally absorbed in what I do. The rest of the world doesn't exist.
To celebrate their lifelong dedication to glass, the couple released a book this year showcasing their favorite pieces, as well volunteered to make 4 window displays paying tribute to Squamish's House Sound secondary grad students that now hang in the school's halls. For Judy, it's her passion for the craft, combined with her husband's natural craftsmanship, that makes them such a strong team, with her true love still by her side.
This wouldn't exist without my husband supporting me and working with me. It's just amazing. Yeah, and you know, and the thing is, you know, it's going to be there for a very long time. It's a wonderful legacy, I guess, to leave.
It keeps us together and gives us something to do together. When you're young and you make a plan with somebody for the rest of your life, you don't know whether it's going to work, whether it won't, it will be successful. Here we are 35 years later.
Well, that wraps up this week's show, coming to you from the 3rd Annual Whistler Village Beer Festival. If you want to send us any pictures of you enjoying the event, be sure to reach out to us on Twitter and on Facebook. Send us all of your celebrations. And if you have any story ideas, any other craft breweries we should cover here on the channel, you can also email us at goseatosky@sjrb.ca. Until next time, cheers.